There are some patterns out there that are knit in the round that have you start at the center of the piece and increase until you end up with a bigger piece. I have a blanket out called the Eyelet baby blanket that starts this way. There's also a very popular pattern on knitty.com called the French market bag. I love that pattern. But the very hardest part of both of those patterns is getting started with the tiny little bit of knitting you have at the center of the piece. I'm going to demonstrate how to work with 4 needles when you only have 8 stitches cast on. Well, let's just look at it here. Here's the mess of what I have so far, and I only have 3 needles. I'm going to cast on 2 more stitches onto 1 more needle to really make a mess out of this. It's funny, both of the patterns I mentioned are so fun to knit, but they're only fun after you get a few rows going, because starting with this does not look like any fun. But you can get through it. We're going to do it together. First thing we want to do is straighten things out, and it's going to sound like wind chimes for a moment here. Find my working yarn, get it untangled, and there we are. This is taking me a moment to get this straightened out. There is my working yarn and my first needle, my second needle, my third needle, my fourth needle. So my cast on runs like this. It might take you a minute to get here, but you need to start here so you understand where your working yarn is and where your last stitch is, the first stitch that you cast on. Because when I use this working yarn to knit this stitch, it's going to close it up in the round and start the little center of my work. Now, when we get this started, you need to count the stitches. Normally, when we're knitting in the round, we can use a stitch marker or something to mark the beginning of the round, but with this, there's no place to clip a stitch marker yet. There's no work, and it ends up being hard to figure out. So the first round I'm going to knit, I'm going to count the stitches so I know when I get to the end of the round. So here's my working yarn, here's my first stitch. I'm leaving everything on the table for a minute so it doesn't get twisted. I don't have to try to hold on to all 4 needles. I'm just going to hang on to this empty needle in my right hand and get my first stitch set up, still not picking it up off the table. Get my needle in there, wrap the needle, and now that I'm ready to pull this through, I can actually pick it up off the table. It won't get twisted anymore. So the first round, I'm going to knit. I think most patterns do have you just knitting the first round. So there's my last stitch. Just to the left of my last stitch is my next stitch on the next needle. So I knit 2. This is 3 and 4. My next needle is here. This is 5 and 6. And this is 7 and 8. Okay, I have knit around all 8 stitches. Still doesn't look much better than it did on the first round. And this is not a good time to answer the phone or anything. Stick with your work for these first few rounds. Don't set it down and try to come back to it at this point. So I'm back at the first stitch of the round, and in my Eyelet baby blanket pattern, we increase on this round. It's knit 1, yarn over, knit 1. So I'm going to end up with 3 stitches on each needle when I'm done with this round. So it will be easier to tell where the beginning of my round is at this time. So I'm going to knit 1, yarn over, knit 1. And that was the first needle, which now has 3 stitches on it. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 1. I like the sound of these wood needles. Okay, and this is my last one. I do not want to knit with my tail in this case. I was being very careful to separate my tail out. Oh my goodness. Knit one, yarn over, knit one. Okay, these last few stitches are giving me trouble, but things are going to be a whole lot easier from here on out. Okay. If I can get this straightened out, you'll be able to see that we actually have a shape started here. There's the, it's actually looking like a square now, and there is enough fabric there for me to use a clippy marker to mark the beginning of my round. And as I knit more and more and increase more and more, I can move the marker up close to the edge of the work to mark the beginning of the round. And that's how to get started with a few stitches on double pointed needles, the most difficult part of the whole knitting project when you start that way. Good luck.